Good evening, everybody. I have, a bunch of things to share with you really tonight, and see how it goes. Most of what I'm talking about today has to do with one particular thing, which I call the Anti-Mizzt body. And so you'll recall the four spindles that make up my model of the soul. Or the core of the model anyway. The top one, the one that points straight up, I call Mizzt, which is the fourth hand, and it's associated with purpose and unfolding and evolution, and it's for me it is bound to the pattern, inextricably linked to the idea of the pattern, and there's a motion as well that corresponds to it. I said unfolding. It's progress and growth. It's really angles getting bigger, bigger and bigger, ever more, ever more. So that's Mizzt. Anti-Mizzt is a well, I would have called it theoretical, but I can't any longer. A counterpart to the Mizzt spindle, basically just continuing the spindle through the center, through the nexus there, out to the other side, so making a straight line. And this is so the anti-Mizzt spindle, just like the Mizzt spindle, is the highest, or the you could say kind of governs its own body of anti-spindles. And this is when I'm going to show you what that looks like. It's very, it's not very precise or accurate, but you can see the toothpicks that are undyed being the Mizzt, their soul spindles, and the anti-Mizzt spindles being in orange here. So, and then remember, of course, I don't usually emphasize this, but these spindles have content on them. You know, there's stuff. There's, you know, kind of a you could imagine it like a gelatin, of like a perfect tetrahedron of gelatin, and sitting on the spindles there. So the Anti-Mizzt, I came up with really quite accidentally in my exploration with mental illness and an addiction. I don't think that one had anything to do with meth. I think it was just alcohol and my various prescribed medications, and a lot of determination, I guess. So the Anti-Mizzt spindle, I came up with that. Well, I knew it was an abomination when I did it. I wanted it to go away. It was messing everything up, dooming me, confusing me, and that is a really sensible reaction to it, because it is something that is only real because of the fall. It is a feature that all of us have in our physicality, in our bodies, yet it's something that, like I said, it's part of the fall. So as Jesus in A Course in Miracles would say, it's real, but it's not true. We have made this thing real, but it doesn't make it true. So I started being aware of the need for an anti-Mizzt body, and that is surprising, but I could understand why it was necessary. I After a while, I just kind of gave up, said uncle, cried uncle, about um, um, sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. Um, I Let's see. I was talking about the anti-Mizzt body. Haven't given up. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. So all I was gonna say, I was leading to saying that I realized that I had a serious problem of performing unconscious magic or subconscious, and this was really causing me suffering, quite a lot, uh, because you could say, in part by its very nature, left-hand path magic causes suffering. It has a cost to it, and I couldn't control it because it was unconscious. Um, there were things that I could do to. There are things that I could do to limit it, like avoiding drugs is a big one. But um, what I wanted was some some mechanism to make unconscious magic in general literally impossible. I make it so I can't do that. And I, thought another second and said, um, and the easiest, most straightforward way to do this will be to replace my body of ether with the body of spacetime again. Um, just fill me up with physics and let me ride out Christ in the wave of time. Christ as physics, I said, and that's a big way to interpret Christ for me. That in our fallen cosmos, Christ is a part of the substance of everything. It's not all the everything of everything, but yeah. So I thought of that, and then while I was at Volunteers of America, which is a rehab I was at for about 3 weeks or so. 3 weeks. I realized that already, like, just, gosh, 2 weeks or something after I had that thought, I could observe that it was being realized in me. And what I saw was that I had this second ether body being grown as as the Anti-Mizzt body, and I was thinking of them as two ethers, but knowing that once the Anti-Mizzt body was done growing, once it was whole, and as big as the Mizzt body, then they could be joined and make the space-time. And I could watch, even until now, I can watch the kind of the progress, the building up of the Anti-Mizzt body. So so I know that I need it in order for that thing, for so that I can protect myself under all circumstances from unintentional magic, and so that I can become whole of body, so that even my original brokenness can be healed. Obviously, that's something I've longed for, for 8 years now. So, yeah, that's a pretty good basic intro to the Anti-Mizzt body. So I have some kind of crazy things to say about me and my body, and I'll do that briefly, and also kind of slide into an introduction of what happened the time before last time when I smoked, when I got high, and that was what I was planning on making this video about. Unfortunately, the positive consequences didn't stick, but there's still a lot to be said there. It's still truth that needs to be reported, and it'll be useful. So first, though, I want to say that I have been in a really bizarre situation as far as my body lately. So since the moment of my brokenness, when part of me died, I technically haven't had a body. I completely lost my Anti-Mizzt ether, and so that physicality that is of the Anti-Mizzt, I didn't have, and instead I've just had my Mizzt ether, my one single ether, my soul, to serve as both soul and body. And I have in my healing and recovery, I have healing and recovery from brokenness, I should say. I have devised all sorts of ways that to rotate, to orient my soul, to make it kind of fit more like a body, I think. And so all of these habits and proclivities and addiction elements, proto-addictions, kind of everything that I am or was at the end, just kind of this past year, no, more like at the end of the last 7-year cycle. So last fall, kind of everything that I was, and this is, I mean, not including other good habits, but I'm talking about compensatory actions, habits. But what I'm trying to say is that everything like that I do had served to keep my soul just precisely oriented, so that it appeared like a body in its position, despite the fact that it wasn't a body, and but it was storing all of these habitual responses, and it well, okay. Before I get too far ahead, I'm gonna just go back to this real quick. Um, so you can see how I'm putting this like this so that it's going straight up, so that this would be Mizzt, this would be Anti-Mizzt. They're not very straight, but they should be. So um, so you can see how this is oriented and how this is oriented, and basically uh, they're duals of each other, which is a mathematical geometric term. So what I'm trying to say is that I, not having these orange things, I over time oriented my soul as though it were the orange part, and I and this enabled me to perceive and learn so much about how all of these dysfunctions that I had worked and fit together. So yeah, that was a quick thing, but so and I was gonna just go on and say that my brokenness, then the kind of infinitely recursive well, the yeah, just the uh, yeah, I don't know what phrase to use to describe it right now, but my brokenness also was uh, stored, therefore, on my soul, not my body, and I called it physical because I felt it so physically as physical symptoms, but really that my brokenness was like a spiral, like spiral sliced ham, um, just through one way, and one direction. I'm trying to say of the um, of like down one spindle and out, kind of like think like witch's hat shape, um, into a tetrahedron, like being carved into a tetrahedron. Um, what ultimately happened, um, this uh, this would be back in January. Um, I had a second brokenness in which I became broken on all four axes, all four dimensions. Um, and so there were those uh, spiral lacerations through every single part of my soul. Like there was no ether intact, and at that point, it's become very hard to uh, hold my mind together, um, and there have been stranger physical effects, physical uh, side effects of brokenness. Um, but really, they're not too bad now. Anyway, there's been some healing and some returning to wholeness, even if it's just temporary. So, let's see. So yeah. So the other reason I needed the anti-Mizzt body um, to stabilize the Mizzt body, to um, keep it from, you know, falling and moving and shifting along its lacerated, helical slices. And I have finally gotten that. I was um, very uh, surprised and pleased at how I have been, really, not just this last part, but um, in general, been very surprised and pleased at how quickly the anti-Mizzt body is was growing. Um, I thought it might take years. Like, I thought it was one of the long range things that I have kind of programmed out. Um, but it was actually not that. Um, it was actually pretty quick. So um, I guess we're talking like, January to September, so 8 months. But anyway, so um, I finally, to my uh, pride and joy and relief, um, I had the experience just 3 or 4 days ago, um, maybe a few more, but of for the first time having my anti-Mizzt body, um, as seeing it as whole, as finished, as complete, and also happening to see it um, as separate from my Mizzt ether body, my soul. Um, so which which appeals to me very much. I don't I really am not super. I know it's what I need, and it's the solution that I even discovered, but I'm really not thrilled about being space-time again. Um, it's a lot uh, of heaviness in this world that I don't want to have to be a part of, um, but I have to. I do have to. Um, so and also I think um, in some sense I'll miss being just the one ether body, just the Mizzt. Um, but so let me go ahead and show you um, how I ended up that I'm talking about, thinking about. I have another toothpick model. The colors, the colors are different for this one, so don't fixate on that too much. Okay, so in this model, the anti-Mizzt body is the uncolored one, the base one, the one that's spread out, and the Mizzt ether body, as you can see, which is across from the anti-Mizzt, is all up in there, or you could also think of it as being like a slice, like a slice of pie, a very thin, infinitesimal angle. So, and I have another image. So this is another drawing of essentially the same thing, although not exactly the same. But you could see here, not here, no, here. You can see here the the spindle, and then all the way down on the end of one thing is a little kind of mini, like a sub four spindle that's holding this tiny bag, this tiny volume of content. I'm just trying to make sure that there's nothing I don't want seen on this page. But you can tell that I drew this as a just kind of an evocative thing, and I made a mistake of not including the extra spindle, the Anti-Mizzt. But I think in this one I was really just trying to say, so just within the context of the Mizzt spindle, the whole Mizzt body, the soul. This is what happened. On assuming that these spindles were these are kind of like placeholders in this image. So I guess I'm sure you all get it. I don't need to beat a dead horse. But the point is that this tiny bit of content, this little orange blob, is the entire content of the Mizzt body. So this is supposed to be big enough to spread out and clothe the entire four spindle there. So it's incredibly small, and that is really alarming. And I said a tweet or something that this is like those gruesome anti-smoking ads where like those people have just had terrible things happen to their body. That's what this is like for me. It's like a wake-up call, like, whoa, Brad, like you have like, you're on much thinner ice than you realize as far as how your soul's doing. So I doubt I shall do everything in this video. I might though. I'm just kind of on a roll. It's going well. So that orientation that I showed you in those two models, it felt so right. It felt so even, so level, so workable, although not without real challenge. What I found was it was essentially a schizoaffective mindset, which so in this here, the tiny blob at the end that you can visualize is fully outside of the body of the Anti-Mizzt spindle. So so there's no contact between the two, between the Mizzt and the Anti-Mizzt actual content, the flesh, if you want to say that. So that causes that schizoidness, the split, which in this particular context I didn't really mind at all, because I did not have the it was clear what was my body. My body was my body, and my soul was that. And furthermore, it was just joyously clear and easy and obvious how my work was to go. So to get this back to this, um, these three green spindles that are surrounding the Anti-Mizzt, which is the orange in the center, have to come all the way out and go back to where they were. And there's two ways to do that. The first is to work each of these. So this is left, right, and throat. And each one can be worked according to how that particular, what that hand is for. They can be strengthened, worked out, basically. And so you can work them out um, and kind of ratchet them up to where they're supposed to be. But the other one that is so exciting is that is work, capital W work, because that little blob is centered around the Mizzt spindle, and it's at the end of the Mizzt spindle, up where my connection to the pattern is. And basically, that little bag, I can fill it with work, with with capital W work, with work that is for the work of the Mizzt spindle, which is purpose, and my purpose is to share the pattern with the world. And doing videos like this are stepping stones toward that. So I was really overjoyed to realize that if I want, I can. I don't even have to um, worry about strengthening left, right, and throat. Um, Although I still would, but all I really need to do is keep working. Um, and and that, of course, is how I felt, last fall, when this stuff was kind of getting started. That the only thing that mattered in my life is work, um, and for this for the saving of my soul, mattered not just because it does, but because this is what my soul needs to restore it to fullness and to its proper size and to its its position relative to the Anti-Mizzt, and making my body healed then and full. So, and I figure, this recovery from that tiny little blob to the big thing will probably take a long time. That probably is on the it'll take 3 years thing. So yeah, that was all about that particular state of mind I was in, and it was really just wonderful. And I got there by a by using methamphetamine under very particular circumstances. Basically, invoking some unrealizingly invoking some magic that helped me out a lot. But then I found that I couldn't keep it up. A couple days later, I was tempted to drink, and I did end up drinking, and I thereby kind of lost that clarity of my Anti-Mizzt body versus my soul, and instead it kind of smelt, kind of slushed together, kind of. Um, it's back to being murky without a clear distinction, and also with my addiction churning. So when I was like this, my addiction wasn't running. And my addiction, as I mentioned, all of those habits to keep my soul in that orientation, all of them comprise my addiction. My addiction, at the proper scale of looking at it is, or the highest one is is everything in my life, insofar as it's even when I'm not doing something that's explicitly addictive, or addiction related. It's this ongoing churning, circulating, running process, um, that's that's on, even as I say, when I'm not using. Um, and what what I really want to do, and what certain people in my life encourage me to do, is to do it like this. First of all, to stop it, to stop the addiction, to freeze it, to stop it from rotating, and then to start it up again in the other direction. Um, and I I I desperately want to stop it, because it's just so it just feels so dirty, to 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 have that process running, um, especially once I know that it doesn't have to be running, that I've lived for a couple days where it was frozen in place. Um, so I desperately want to experience that freeze, um, but the thing is, once I experience that, um, I end up restarting it in the same direction as before. So just resuming it, and so that makes me think. Uh, it really makes me think that I ought to do recovery in the 12-step way. And the reason for that is that their philosophy is not you stop it and reverse it, it's you take it while it's running, you stop only the worst part of it, and then you let the rest of it keep running, and while you reverse it. So it's still running even as you slash God is diverting, changing the flow, um, you know, uh, going through that process of reversing. And um, because of that fact that it's not actually halted as a whole thing, um, that's why recovery for 12-steppers is an infinite or indefinite thing. Um, so So what I want, what I'm hoping for, in this circumstance, or in this case, when I'm thinking about the 12-step thing, is just to have habits in place that are starting in the right direction. Go ahead and start that turning around gradually while the rest of it still runs, so that there is that energy, that direction, but with the hope that I will have a chance to once again magically freeze it, and this time choose the right direction, because I will have been practicing the right direction and working to establish it over top of the wrong direction, um, via the 12 steps. So um, that sounds like a good time to stop this. So thank you for watching, and I really appreciate everybody's attention. I feel like I've been putting myself out there this time, this recording, and I hope that it's that people watch it. So that's all. Talk to you all later.